Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting knife review by George. And today we're going to talk about the Spyderco Street Bowie knife. If you have seen any of my previous reviews, I would put all this description, all the specification in the description section of this video. So we will dive right into the review of this knife. Overall, the knife has a very good build quality, and also it looks great as well. Very classic styled Bowie styled knife. And in detail, the blade design is very functional because it's a Bowie design. So the Bowie knife, you got a clip point here and a very sharp point there. Very good for self-defense use as well as some utility purpose served as well. And this knife uses the vg10 stainless steel, which is the premium Japanese stainless knife steel. So it's very good. It has a good balance of edge retention and corrosion resistance and toughness. Next up, obviously the knife is blackened, so it produces very little reflection, so it provides very good tacticality at night. And also it provides good wear, sort of a good corrosion resistance as well with the black coating. This thing is a full flat grind, so it's very good at slashing and cutting tasks. And it's got a small spidey hole here. It's so small it will not serve any purpose in terms of function. Of course, it's a fixed blade, and probably will reduce somewhat a bit of weight in there. Ergonomic of this thing is reasonably nice as well. It's got the contour in here, so and also contour in here. Hold it in your hand, it feels reasonably good, and there's no sharp edges at all either. And there's a kraton insert, so it's kind of like a rubberized material in here all over, so when you hold the knife it produces quite a grippy feeling and very soft. There is no handguard on this thing, and you notice like fixed blade knives usually, if they are built for sort of like a defensive purpose, they usually have handguards. But the designer of this knife, he had come up with an idea, is that I've got this very funny drawing, poorly drawing here to illustrate what I mean. So if you look at this picture, our user is here, and as he draws his fixed blade knife, there's a chance that the fixed blade knife having a full handguard will get caught in the t-shirt, for example. So if your knife is fixed on your belt and then you pull the knife, and this handguard can get caught in the t-shirt, which can cause problem if there was an emergency, you have to use the knife to defend yourself. That split second may make a lot of difference. Anyways, back to the review. So this thing doesn't have a handguard. Instead, it uses the finger groove to replace the handguard in terms of security, which is it's kind of quite nice. It feels reasonably good. And this thing has a part tang. It's actually not full tang, so on this end you can't see the steel coming out of this end at all. I've actually done some research on the internet. I tried to look for what the tang looks like on this knife. I found one picture which was taken in X-ray. However, at the time I made the review preparation, I could not find that picture anymore. I can only use my memory and show you what I saw on that picture. The X-ray photo taken shows that the tang of this knife goes something like this. So the tang is about maybe going to the distance of just passing this point, I think. So the tang doesn't go it doesn't even go half as long as the handle goes. It goes to this point, and there's some little bumps along the way on the tang, and there's a hole there. Probably when they injection mold the knife, they've got the FRN into that hole, so provides a little bit of extra security to hold down the Tang. So that's how it goes, and the part Tang obviously is lighter than the full Tang knives. And there's a lanyard hole, of course. The sheath. This sheath is actually quite very ingenious. Reason is that the distance between these two holes is the same to these two holes and those two holes. So basically you can carry the knife vertically on your belt, or if you like, rotate this thing and you can carry it horizontally. And if you're a left-handed guy, you can just put this on the other side, and because this entire sheath is just basically ambidextrous and goes all ways, like 4 ways. So that's very nice as well. And there's a drainage hole on the sheath. Let's see. There is the drainage hole there in case it rains and the water gets in. And I already mentioned the belt clip is very ambidextrous. And of course, you can certainly put some paracords through the holes here to lash this onto your leg, or put it in your boot, or carry it sort of like hanging on your neck. It's just offering so many different ways to carry the knife. And the other thing I'd like to demonstrate is that this knife offers a very special, interesting feature. You put a knife in the clip. When you need to draw the knife, put your hand on it, push the knife out, you're ready. Because your index finger is already in position. Unlike many other knives, fixed blade knives, where the knife is kept in such a way that when you pull the knife, you can't get a full grip, and you pull the knife out of the sheath and you have to adjust your grip. This thing doesn't have that problem. So that's very, very smart as well. Basically, so the finger groove here is accessible even with the sheath on. That's the reason. If you have like a big sized hand, I've got medium sized hand, so I found this knife still having a little bit of excess space for me to grab on. But if you have like really, really big hands or anything, it's still a decent sized handle, so that's also good as well. The negative things about this knife. Here's where I'm going to demonstrate the sharpness. As far as I remember, the first day I got this knife, I was not super impressed by the sharpness. We'll see how we go today. So as you can see, it doesn't just go slice right through the paper. It's not that this knife is not sharp. It is actually a sharp knife, but if you look closely, the knife edge, there's a dent there as well. Probably a bit of a quality issue, but it's not a big deal. But you can see the grind is very, very tiny on each side. And this knife is, being the grind is so narrow, it indicates that the edge angle is not very, very sharp angle. So it does, both sides of the grind does meet in the center, so that means the knife is sharp. It just doesn't have the aggressiveness of trying to dig into material as it touches. Anyways, that's something I would like to say. It's just perhaps a slightly more, maybe 15 degrees on each side would be nice. I'm guessing the current setting is probably about 20 degrees per side, perhaps. Yeah, I think this bit I probably over-exaggerated. There's some reports that says that the sheath actually dulls the knife a little bit as well. I haven't had that issue. The comfort of this handle, I think, could be slightly improved. Currently it is fine. It's not like bad or anything. I just feel like if it could be a little bit thicker this way, and perhaps a little bit more material along this region, it would be a little bit better in terms of the ergonomics. Not a big deal. The next thing is that this knife, due to it's not a full Tang construction, I would say you definitely shouldn't use it for anything like too crazy, like batoning through wood or anything, because it's held together by a part tang, which only goes up to this point, I think, as far as I remember. And inside it's just FRN, and that's holding pinning through the tang. That's what's holding this knife together. I already showed you the picture what it looks like. So there's no hand guard. So if that's a problem to you, say for example, during a knife fight, should you actually end up in that sort of situation, a hand guard would definitely be somewhat useful to prevent your hand from slipping forward. This thing has the finger groove, which is functional, don't get me wrong, and I think hand guard would just sort of give you a bit more security. And also, if say the other guy has a knife and they do end up cutting the knife onto you, and you got a hand guard to actually prevent your injury, perhaps it's not a big deal, because knife fighting, both party has a knife. This situation just doesn't occur very often. Anyways, in terms of the sheath, it's only the positives is probably I'm sorry, the sheath there is nothing to say. The positive, based on my speculation for this knife, the pointy tip here is quite pointy. It's probably able to pierce through, say, Kevlar-based body armor. I'm guessing, but Kevlar is known to not stand much chance against pointy knives. So perhaps this is also a military personnel favored knife. The sheath, because this sheath is designed so sort of like slim and very thin, and you can take this thing off. You can use this knife as a boot knife. Take this thing off, put the knife in, put it in your boot, and you're good to go. The negative things about the knife, like I previously mentioned, if this thing is slightly a bit thicker, I feel it could improve the comfort, but it's not a big deal. The part tang, however, I think, as much as we would like to avoid using this knife for anything like too heavy use, one thing that we should consider is like during a sort of attacker scenario, you don't know what the attacker may have. Say for example, they have a baseball bat and you're gonna swing the baseball bat at you, and you got this knife and you're thinking, well, that's nice. They use the baseball bat and like bash you or something and use this knife to block. It's not going to take too much, this knife is not going to take too much force, because the tang only goes up there, and the entire tang is held together by this FRN. So considering that, I would say this is an excellent knife, but it's not it could have some space of improvement. So the handle obviously can't be taken apart as well. It's all over molded material, so you can't clean it or do maintenance on it. There's a large kraton inserts on both ends, and I don't know how deep this thing goes toward the center, but hopefully it doesn't occupy so much space that it will actually compromise the structural integrity of the handle, because of course the FRN is going to hold more stress and take more abuse than the rubber handle here. So that leads us to the final notes of this knife. I think this is just a very well designed knife. The designer obviously come up with a few very interesting theory, and a very few quite a few features that makes this knife very special. And I think the sharpness, I'll say they could improve the sort of edge angle a little bit more. Although having just done this review, I've realized the sharpness is not bad at all on this knife. We'll just do one more cut test. It's actually quite nice after I've actually just have given it a second opinion. Anyways, we can see there's somewhat a little dent in the edge there. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect the overall quality of the knife. It's still very high quality. Otherwise, that concludes the review. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I'll see you next time.